Hi, welcome to the Weathering Well Digital Wellbeing Tool presentation. I'm Michelle Sweet and I'm from Menzies School of Health Research.
Hi everyone, I'm Alistair McDonald and I'm with the Western Queensland Primary Health Network, or PHN. We'd first like to acknowledge the traditional owners of all the lands we're virtually meeting from today and pay respects to the elders, past, present and emerging, and to their traditions and customs.
And today we just want to give a brief overview of the Weathering Well app, the background and its development. Over to you, Alistair. How did we all start?
So how did this all start? So many of this group will know that in 2018, the Australian government announced drought response funding for drought impacted rural and remote communities across Australia. There were 8 recipient drought PHNs, and they agreed in principle to the usefulness and development of a shared digital mental health and wellbeing tool, and within that to be used within a step care framework. The Western Queensland PHN initiated conversations with Menzies, the School of Health Research, in November 2018 regarding the development or modification of a relevant and effective digital wellbeing tool. Through those discussions, there was broad agreement that the existing and evaluated Stay Strong app could be adapted for drought-impacted rural and remote communities. It's important to acknowledge that in rural and remote areas, there are often very small communities and the distances between those communities is vast. And the breadth and depth of that workforce is often spread quite thinly. Opportunistic interventions are clearly beneficial in that kind of environment.
Leading on to what Alistair was saying, is choosing your digital tool is really crucial depending on what environment and who you're working with. And so the adaptation of the existing app was chosen because it did have many years of evidence behind it, particularly in the rural and the remote setting. So a little bit of background about the Stay Strong app was that it was adapted from a paper-based care planning tool, which was developed in 2004 by the Aboriginal Islander Mental Health Program and the team who worked in that in the Northern Territory. The Stay Strong app was developed in 2012 as an adaptation of this care planning tool, and in 2013 the Commonwealth Government announced the Digital Mental Health Strategy, which Menzies, along with QUT, who led this program, University Centre for Rural Health and Black Dog all worked together to train people to promote digital mental health tools and raise awareness. So from 2013, Menzies has been building evidence regarding the development and implementation of digital interventions. So in this way, the Weathering Well learnt from the Stay Strong app development and adopted that concept of practice into a new setting, and worked with the Aim High basic concepts of strengths-based, opportunistic counselling, brief interventions, and motivational counselling. So these same principles are what are guiding the use of the Weathering Well app.
Thanks, Michelle. Look, again, I'm just going to mention that Weathering Well and the Weathering Well intervention involves a collaboration between the facilitator and the participant. And that participant takes an active role in goal setting and the implementing of activities between sessions, with the participant being the expert of their own life.
With the background of Western Queensland PHN and their vast knowledge of the area that they've been working in, and Menzies School of Health Research expertise within the digital mental health space, Western Queensland approached Menzies in November 2018 and started working together. Western Queensland PHM were gathering the group who were going to be the advisory group to adapt the Stay Strong app, while Menzies worked on the ethics applications and facilitation material for the co-design workshop that was then held in December 2018.
The Development Advisory Group, essentially the co-design panel, came from a variety of different forms of background in terms of expertise and in terms of their professional disciplines as well. Mostly they came from New South Wales and Queensland, included graziers, growers, rural financial counsellors, rural and remote mental health clinicians from various backgrounds, some IT expertise, Menzies, 2 PHNs, Western Queensland and Murrumbidgee, and we had peak body representatives from rice growers and also representatives from some of the drought-impacted shire councils.
And so this advisory group met in Adelaide and spent 3 days looking at the look and the feel and the wording of the existing app to determine what changes needed to happen to be relevant to the Australian farming community. And as you can imagine, there are a lot of different opinions in that room, 14 people coming from vast and different backgrounds really. And so the first 2 days was about bringing all those ideas out. And then by the third day, we narrowed our focus and started making decisions. There were some key elements agreed on for the app right from the beginning, really. And some of them were fence lines and windmills and wells and Akubra hats and all sorts of things like that. So within the limitations that we had around functionality and budget, an agreed draft was developed by the third day that we could then give to the app developers.
Yeah, exactly, Michelle. And what this shows is on the left, we have the Stay Strong app and the symbolism, the wording and the imagery. And on the right, we have what Weathering Well, where we ended up, and actually slightly different language, different imagery and different symbols. The co-design group, the advisory group, thought would resonate with this particular audience that the tool was intended for. And what we also did through the process was take the prototype of the initial Weathering Well app out to the Development Advisory Group and a range of other stakeholders, and we beta tested that. And then we came back again and we redeveloped and responded to that feedback. And on the right, you'll see what we ended up with, which was not what we had as a prototype, I can assure you of that. So we really responded. I think, Michelle, our putting up this slide is very much about showing where we started and where we landed as a result of having that co-design process and that development advisory group and listening to them, and then also going through that process of us taking out the prototype and beta testing it with a variety of different stakeholders that were interested in this work. And yeah, it shows a difference in the symbols, the language, and also the pictorial look and feel of Weathering Well from its Stay Strong predecessor.
Yeah, and this is one page in the app, and it's a simple app with some simple principles that it's based on, as we mentioned earlier. And so we will have a look next at what the app actually looks like in practice.
With mental health, starting the conversation can often be the trickiest part. When do you raise it? What do you say? And how do you say it? But there are opportunities, even in remote areas. Two neighbours just catching up, a meeting about finances, or a chat about everyday life matters. Weathering Well is a new digital tool to help maintain and support improvement in mental health and well-being. And it's a conversation that can be had anywhere and at any time. Weathering Well has been designed specifically for Australian rural communities experiencing stress and adversity from the ongoing drought and other extreme climatic events. These challenges can have impacts on mental health, general well-being, and can lead to problems with relationships, alcohol or other drugs, issues that are often kept behind closed doors. That's where Weathering Well can make a difference, a private guided conversation with a trusted person, encouraging the participant to notice their strengths or what's going well in their life, and also exploring their worries, like money concerns, family or health issues.
You know, you're faced with kind of thinking, should you sell, should you hang on to it, you know, so that's... You know.
Adapted from another successful digital mental health tool called Stay Strong, developed by the Menzies School of Health Research, Weathering Well has been designed with the help of graziers and farmers, as well as mental health clinicians. Importantly, Weathering Well is not a self-help tool. It's a conversation guided by a facilitator who's trained in its use.
Keeping in mind that this is the stuff that keeps you well, that keeps you strong. So is there anything else in this particular area that you can see?
Weathering Well facilitators are not required to be clinical professionals. They might be a trusted local who runs a business, works for the local council, or is a respected community member with an interest in the well-being of their fellow residents. So what does a Weathering Well session look like? There are 4 key steps. First, the session will explore your support network, people in your life such as family, friends or mates, those around you who you can lean on from time to time. Then, Weathering Well will guide you toward the things in your life that keep you well, like your work, exercise, community groups and activities, hobbies or other interests. After that, the tool will help you look at your worries, what's not going so well, and how that might be influencing your everyday life and relationships. Finally, it'll be time to set some goals that are relevant and achievable, and plan some realistic steps to help meet those goals. Weathering Well can also help identify participants needing extra support using a clinically validated distress scale. Automated pop-ups provide a range of national mental health and suicide support contacts for facilitators should the participant's distress rating be moderate or high. Information collected in the first Weathering Well session can be reviewed in follow-up sessions, where existing goals can be assessed and new ones set by the participant at a realistic pace. Weathering Well is already being used in communities facing adversity, including through the Australian Government's national trial of trusted advocates in rural and remote regions. For more information on Weathering Well and how to download it, or how to participate in Weathering Well training, please visit the Weathering Well website at www.weatheringwell.com. Thank you for your interest in Weathering Well, supporting rural and remote communities to weather well.
I'm sure you'll have some questions after seeing that video, and we're here after this session, but also feel free to contact us at any point out of session if you have any queries about the Weathering Well app. So just moving along, in terms of how we're going about training people in the app. So originally, for our ethics application, we said that we proposed analysing the data for 6 months post-training. So that's in process at the moment. Our first training was in October 2019, and that was in Brisbane. We then managed to fit in another few trainings in New South Wales early 2020 before COVID hit and lockdowns happened. So we have done some Zoom sessions, webinars, and we're in the process of developing online training modules. So stay tuned for that one.
Probably just important to note, if you are interested in Weathering Well, Mostly coordination of the use of Weathering Well has taken place in a number of states through the relevant primary health networks, or PHNs, and through their commission services, or through volunteer networks that they've been working with. So another area you could go for information on Weathering Well being used in your local environment.
So that comes to the end of our presentation today, but please feel free to stay in touch, or if you've got any questions, we're here at the other end, at the end of this. And if you visit www.weatheringwell.com, there's information on there how to download the app or access the app and get in contact further.
Thanks for your time.
Thanks.